Hi, I'm Gary. This is another segment of Drive Time with Gary. As you can see, we're not in my truck as usual. This afternoon when I tried to shoot this segment, the sun was low and the video was all messed up with the lights. So here we are at night in my living room for another Drive Time segment with Gary. Today I want to talk about a serious subject, and that's the shooting yesterday at Parkland HS in Florida. I want to talk about that and some issues with that. One thing I do want to promise you is I'm staying away from the political issues. I don't care what people's views are on mental health, on the gun laws, or on arming teachers. I have opinions on all those. It seems like everybody does, right? But at this point, discussion of those issues, I believe, is something that should be left till sometime after. There are other things we can talk about and we can do, concrete things right now that will make people safer. I'm concerned about the use of the fire alarm, in this case, by the perpetrator to drive people out into his field of fire. And, you know, in general, one of the things that's prompted me to do this video is that I think still within our school systems, a lot of people have procedures based on the way things used to be. And it's based on maintaining order. It's based, yes, a lot of schools have adopted new techniques and procedures for active shooters based on all the school shootings. The FBI came up with run, hide, and fight. That's been adopted by the Homeland Security, and that's pretty much the standard for everywhere. You know, teachers close off, block the window, lock the door, and the students hide behind stuff, and that's where they're supposed to be. If somebody makes it in, you run, get shelter, you hide, and stay quiet. And then if they come in the room, last ditch, you throw everything and fight. And I think that's good for the basic student and in class. But as we see, that doesn't cover every case, as in the case in Parkland. So I think one of the problems with this is that we are still viewing, and I think it's just some of the way that school boards and education systems think is more defensively. I'm a military person. I think offensively. When people are trying to attack me, I had to learn how to attack other people. I had to learn how they think, how they plan, how they would go about it. And then I need to take measures that are proactive to counter anything that they would try to do. And there's certain principles of combat, like in this case, I think 360-degree security at all times would come into play and would be helpful. And there are things that are left out of a lot of our current plans. So today I do want to talk about that. I'm going to give you 3 areas that I believe that we deal with policy and equipment that we can, on very short notice, start using in our schools now that will make people safer. And then I want to talk a little bit about situational awareness in a crisis and how that differs than some of the way people are thinking and coming up with their plans currently. Let's talk about fire drills. A typical fire drill that hadn't changed a whole lot since I was in elementary school a long, long time ago. The alarm goes off. The teacher starts getting you ready, tells everybody to be quiet. The teacher, you get up, you move out in an orderly fashion, usually in a line, so that the teacher can maintain control. You go on a pre-designated route to a pre-designated spot outside, because it's important for schools to be able to do accountability outside. and so they can know if they've gotten every student out. So we haven't changed that. Alarm goes off, teacher gets students ready, people file out, go to a spot, get accountability, you wait for the all clear, then everybody files back in. How do we measure schools, government offices, anywhere? How do we measure improvement or success when we do our required, fire drills? It's by time. We're rewarded for, hey, we cut 2 minutes off the time that it took to get everybody out of this school that might be burning and, to a safe place. Sometimes it counted, how long it took to get accountability as well. I'm saying that that's maybe not the best measure of success, particularly in today's time of school shootings, terror attacks, and other types of violence. That just like in shooting, we say smooth is fast. I believe that taking a correct action, which may not in every case be to pile everybody out of the room and get out of the school as fast as possible when that fire alarm goes off, that taking a prudent action is better, even if that takes a little bit longer time, than making a rash it's not even really a decision, it's just a reaction based on here's what we always do. When you train the same way every time in any drill, in any combat drill, in martial arts, in anything you do, if you train to the same way every time, then when that happens for real, that's how you're going to do it. So I believe that we need to make our fire drills a little more realistic and have some different scenarios. How often is a fire drill mechanical malfunction? How often is it some student that wants to try to get everybody at school pulls the fire alarm? I just think that we need to give a little bit more authority and trust to the teachers to make the right call of what to do in the fire drill. So, but what I'm advocating for is that when a fire alarm goes off, that a teacher has the ability to stick their head out the door and make a quick assessment of what's going on. Let's say it is a fire. Well, then for me, before the teacher just starts moving people out, that it would be good to stick your head out, look and see, is the fire in my hallway, in my pod, close to my room? Which direction is the smoke coming from? Or is there none of that here? Then the teacher can conduct their evacuation accordingly or not accordingly. I'm not convinced that it's the correct thing to evacuate every time that fire alarm goes off. And again, I believe that I want to leave that judgment to the teacher. I know maybe some administrators might think that, teachers will just start ignoring the fire drill. Hey, if that happens, then take action, get rid of that teacher. We're talking about the safety of our children in the school. I want to trust the teacher, train the teacher, but trust that teacher to make the judgment call to keep those children safe. If we always react to that alarm in the same manner, we are enabling someone that wants to do harm to use that alarm to their advantage, which was what apparently happened in Parkland. We don't have all the details yet, and more of that will be coming out. But again, the old-fashioned way of get everybody out as fast as you can and get accountability when that alarm goes off is not working for today's environment. I think another issue with the fire drills is, I'm not sure how it is in different school systems around the country. I have children that go to one of the largest school systems in the nation, but especially in Northern Virginia. And in that school system, fire drills are required once a month. And then I have my lady Kim is a teacher at a school in that county too, a different school. And on those fire drills, they're not told in advance when it's going to be a fire drill. They know they have one a month, so sure, if it gets to the last week or last few days of the month and you haven't had a fire drill, you can count on you're going to get a fire drill during that time. But in a case like in Parkland yesterday, evidently there was a fire drill earlier in the morning, and then, you know, the alarm, when that guy initiated the alarm, that was the second time it went off. I believe, sort of dovetailing with what we talked about with trusting teachers, that I'm going to trust the teacher to know when there is a fire drill most of the time. If I'm doing one a month, hey, most of the time my teacher is going to know that a fire drill is coming, and I'm going to trust them not to game the system and not to tip off the students that it's coming. Sure, would I run an unannounced one? Yes, I would, but my unannounced one would be based on the procedures I talked about before, where I'm going to see what action the teacher takes and how they ascertained what was going on before they took an action. I'm not going to do a rote fire drill and base my success on how quickly we can evacuate the school. The third thing that we can do that will help in a crisis, and that's any crisis, fire drill or whatever, would be to equip teachers with an emergency communication system. In schools now, you have the PA system. The PA system in an emergency, if people are yelling, running, screaming, gunshots going off, and you know how there's always a few classrooms that have that real scratchy, weak speaker that you can't really understand. We can't rely on that speaker. And that PA system is a one-way system. I want the teacher to have some device that's in their hand. It could be like a Motorola type radio, it could be a Nextel type device, something that's right there with them. Not only then am I expecting whoever is the crisis manager that's designated to inform the teachers of what's going on or what to do. I'm counting on those teachers in the different areas to use that means of communication to report back to the crisis manager. You know, that I want to know if it's a fire, you know, teachers should be reporting back, this hallway is clear, there's smoke in this hallway. If you don't see smoke, report that. If you see something else going on, report that. So I like the two-way factor of a handheld communications device. So to review those three things, I believe, A, that teachers should have more discretion about how and where and when to evacuate children. And it shouldn't be get everybody out on the pre-designated route to a pre-designated spot as fast as possible. B, I think that for the most part, a teacher should know in advance when a fire drill is coming, especially if you're doing them often. When you train for something, if you keep doing fire drills, and let's say once a month, it's my opinion you're you're taking the same action every time, then you're building into that teacher and that students. Boom, here's the fire drill. What are we going to do? Get up, get in line, get out, go to our thing, and go to our designated spot. Okay, now in another emergency, in a case like Parkland, what are you going to do? What are those students and teachers going to do when the alarm goes off? They're going to do the exact same thing. So I believe that we should give that discretion and trust the judgment of that teacher. Hey, look, if somebody's taking advantage of that, get rid of them. This is our children's safety at stake. Don't keep them around, but trust the ones you keep around. So, and then the other thing was to issue some type of communications equipment, two-way communication. With that, I mean, I mentioned a crisis management person being designated. I think that the other thing you have to do is give teachers a format to report. You don't want a bunch of teachers getting on there like people sound on a 911 tape when you listen to one of those, going on and on and on. You need a format so that a teacher has a clear, concise way to convey information. And it should provide all the information you need, but it should be short. So that's part of it, making sure that everybody knows who the crisis manager is in events emergency happens, or an alternate if you need that. But those are some pieces of the communication piece. So let the teacher decide what to do. Tell the teachers in advance, if for the most part, if there's going to be a fire drill, and get some sort of communications device. The last aspect I want to talk about with this is situational awareness. Again, our school systems are, and the way we have our procedures are sort of law enforcement, inwardly focused procedures. Again, somebody that is stalking your school, is planning an attack, terrorist, one of these people like this guy that did the shooting at Parkland, that person is watching the school, knows something about the school, and knows the routine and the procedures. A perpetrator is going to take that and use that to their advantage, as this guy did. So, like in Turkey, there was an attack at the airport. They initiated a small attack inside the airport, and that was just to drive everybody outside. The main attack was waiting outside. And again, anytime that you have a place that is secure and the person can't get a gun in there or bomb, whatever weapon they're going to use, if they can then do something that drives everybody out, then they can, you're putting targets in their line of fire. And so what I believe, those of us that are trained in unconventional warfare in particular, are always looking for a secondary attack. So I've got somebody dealing with the immediate issue, and maybe that's evacuating children out of the school. Well, then somebody has to be designated, whether it's a security personnel, administrators, or even that plus designated teachers, excuse me, are scanning for secondary attacks. By that I mean, okay, if I'm outside and I'm one of these people, I am out there scanning the parking lot. I'm looking around the school, in the block or the area around the school, to see if I see someone that looks suspicious, something that looks unusual. If you go back to the Vegas shooter, you could actually have somebody, maybe they get an accomplice on the inside of the school, call in a bomb threat, do something that causes a school to evacuate people. That person could sit 300 meters away, where, not on the school property, and then just unload and have, a lot of targets out there. And we'd have now something more like the Vegas shooting on our school grounds. So you always have to have, while some people are focused inward, you always have to have somebody providing that 360-degree security and look outwards. And I think that that's something that's easily built into your school's emergency action plans. We have now the run, hide, and fight protocol for active shooters. I think some people have a duck and cover bomb response to a bomb threat, but fire drills are generally treated the same old way that they've been forever. And here we have a case where somebody knew that and then played that to their advantage in order to kill more people. Hey, these are some ideas that have worked in hostile places for me. I've had to protect dwellings and compounds from people that were always trying to get in to either shoot or to be a suicide bomber. So these techniques and these procedures do work, and I just think that it's time now that we review our school policies and consider changing some of these things that we've done the same way for so long. I don't want to get into the political aspects of what happened in Parkland, but these are the things that we've talked about today are measures you can undertake in very short notice. It just requires a few meetings, some consensus, and a little bit of work in establishing and disseminating the procedures. Those are my thoughts, and I hope that you find them helpful. Again, this has been another Drive Time with Gary, and thank you for your time.